I hear a lot about responsible gun ownership and use, but how about responsible ownership and use of motor vehicles? After all, just like a gun, a motor vehicle can also be a deadly weapon. The fact is this: you can be a great person, a wonderful human being, but if you get intoxicated, drunk, if you consume illegal drugs or alcohol, and you get involved in an accident and somebody dies, you can go from being a normal and nice and great, free person to being a felon who, if convicted, will face years in prison. My first criminal appeal as a lawyer that involved somebody who died was one such case. It was a DUI manslaughter case. I remember the name of the defendant, Linas Kazinas. He got involved in an accident in the neighborhood called Killearn in Tallahassee, and an older man died in the accident. And even though he had a small amount of fault for what happened, because he was intoxicated, he spent more than 10 years in prison. Now we have another example. Nikoleta Koikos, a young lady from a wealthy family who was having drug issues, was dating someone with drug issues, got involved in an accident with this young man, killed him, and now is going to be spending many years in prison. Here's a portion of the sentencing.
Hold on, Ms. Koikos. Please speak into the microphone.
I want to give my sympathies to Gary's family. I'm so sorry for all of your losses. I love Gary very much and became very close to his mother Molly and his son Gary Jr. I pray for them both all the time. The hurt in my heart is unfathomable. I feel numb and confused with why this happened. Thanks to Dr. B, I now understand the hows surrounding this tragic accident. What haunts me now is the whys. I will never fully understand why Gary jumped out of the vehicle and left me in the middle of the road. I will never know why he tried to stop the moving vehicle. Those images I will forever live with. I see that replaying over and over in my head. I will always remember. I will never forget Gary. I'm truly sorry.
Collins, does anyone else wish to speak on behalf of Ms. Koikos?
Her addiction started with a prescription to opioids after surgery that eventually led to street drugs. Before meeting Gary, Nikki had befriended his mother and other family members. Nikki met Gary when she was asked by his mother to pick him up from prison after his release for serving years for drug-related charges. Unfortunately, like many others, the drug use continued after his release. While watching the trial, I learned a lot. According to both toxicologists, his blood levels showed he had drastically larger amounts of drugs in his system. Some substances in his blood, even reaching toxic levels, with both experts agreeing would cause impairment. Meanwhile, Nikki's showed much lower post-trace amounts, according to both toxicologists, and they could not prove impairment. From what I understand from trial, Gary was the one that went inside the house and brought the drugs, and most likely used while inside. She hadn't used since the day before because they were out. The drug test backs up that claim. I mean no disrespect, but Gary was the one who got back behind the wheel and then pursued to stop the vehicle in the middle of the road. And then as the vehicle was moving, tried to jump back inside, causing him to get run over by the back tire. His impairment is what killed him, not my sister. Nikki stopped and called 911 and cried for hours upon hours while TPD held her for 8 hours or more without allowing her to make a call to her returning her family. Nikki was not formally charged until months after the accident. citing a Tallahassee Democrat article in the original arrest warrant. The article's writer used a source going by the name nobody's heard of. I believe this person was using an alias. I know about this communication because the individual sent the email correspondence between him and the reporter to Nikki's attorney. Between the multiple hit piece articles written in local publications and the YouTube channels spinning events, I feel Nikki was not given a fair trial. We ask the court to see that drug treatment is what is best for her, not prison time. We are all truly sorry for the pain Gary's family is feeling, especially Gary Jr. I feel so bad. He has lost his father so early and in such a tragic way. I have a 1-year-old son myself that my sister hasn't met. And I pray every day God will allow me to live long enough to see him through to adulthood and beyond. However, the fact is tomorrow is not promised to anyone. It is what we do with today that matters. I hope somebody that is fighting addiction hears about this case and it prompts them to find the strength to fight for their life and leave drugs behind. Thank you again, and God bless.
Any other members of the family, Mr. Collins?
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
Taking judicial notice of court file, the score sheet that has been provided today, and also the argument of the defense and the state, and also the impact statements that have been provided today from both the family of the deceased and also your family, Ms. Koikos. I'm going to pronounce sentence as follows. With the jury having found you guilty of DUI manslaughter and also not guilty of vehicular homicide on April 23rd of this year, I now adjudicate you guilty of DUI manslaughter and not guilty as to vehicular homicide as well. You are going to be sentenced to 11 years in the Department of Corrections, which includes a 4-year mandatory minimum pursuant to Florida statute section 316.193 sub 3, which will be followed by 4 years of probation. During your first year of probation, you are ordered to complete the following DUI sanctions: 100 hours of community service, a vehicle impoundment or mobilization for 10 days, the victim impact panel, and DUI school. The level for DUI school will be determined by the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles. For the remaining period of the probation, you are not to take any illegal drugs or alcohol. There will be random testing for illegal drugs and alcohol to be determined by your probation officer. You are to undergo a mental health evaluation as laid out in the pre-sentence investigation report and in counseling as recommended, and also an anger management program. Your driving privilege will be permanently revoked pursuant to Florida statute section 322.28 subsection 2 subsection D. Restitution to Dorothy Mitchell will be reserved at this time unless it is stipulated to Mr. Collins. Is there a stipulation as to the restitution amount?
No.
The restitution will be reserved at this time. A fine of $2,500 will be imposed pursuant to Florida statute section 775.083. Clerk will now read the remaining statutory fees and costs.
It will be a $1,050 fine pursuant to statute 775.083. Sorry, $52.50 as the 5% surcharge required by Florida statute 938.04. $20 is the court cost pursuant to Florida statute 938.06. $3 as a court cost pursuant to Florida statute 938.01 subsection 1. $50 pursuant to Florida statute 938.03. That's for crimes Compensation Trust Fund, $225 pursuant to Florida Statute 938.05, $2 court costs pursuant to Florida Statute 938.15 for county criminal justice education, $2 is a court cost pursuant to Florida Statute 938.15 for city criminal justice education, $50 as a court cost pursuant to Florida Statute 775.083, subsection 2, $65 as a court cost pursuant to Florida Statute 939.185, $3 as a court cost pursuant to Florida Statute 938.19. Mr. Collins, you are appointed. Okay, a $100 cost of prosecution pursuant to Florida Statute 938.27, subsection 8.
Are there any objections, Mr. Collins, to the statutory fee assessments?
No.
Those amounts will be assessed as read by the clerk. 30 days to appeal. Mr. Collins, if your client desires to do so, she will be fingerprinted at this time, and then they will remand it to the Department of Corrections. We are in recess.
Thanks for watching Mental Lawyer.